community. Power Pop. This is a response video. Okay, this is a response video. Woke up this morning and who did I see staring into my eyes from my iPad? Well, Steve Carlson doing this Sunday morning video. And of course he pre-tapes those. He's not gonna get up at 4 a.m. and do, well, I doubt it. That cat wakes him up. But Hannah, the Omaha Introvert, who I met a couple times during her little hiatus stint in Washington State, just south of Seattle. Met her up at a couple of record shows, her and Bo. But anyway, she did a really great overview this morning on power pop music. And she did a whole intro talking about Pete Townsend's kind of coining the phrase and turning it into something, and the 3 Bs, the Beatles, the Birds, and the Beatles, the Birds, and yeah, of course I'm just blanking out because I would put the Kinks in there, but the Kinks, problematic. But anyway, I'll think of the other B in a second because it's right on the tip of my tongue. But I decided to do a response and an overview. She did a great a pretty definitive thing, and it's also subjective in terms of top records we like. I'm gonna show, there's gonna be a lot of overlap here. I literally just came downstairs in my CD room, pulled some records from the record room and some CDs that I'm gonna show, and some LPs. And I realized there are certain bands that have power pop, like Hannah said, power pop albums or cuts that aren't a fully power pop band. And then of course the bands that go all in. And obviously I'm not gonna get into the influence. I'm not gonna show the Beatles, the Birds, or that other B group. I think I'm having the brain freeze of the Sunday morning. But anyway, I started out with Pelle Karlberg because I wanted to start with this because I think nobody knows this record. And I got turned on. There was a video that they showed around a lot. This is like in the 2000s and 2007. So it's 13 years old. Love that song. The album's pretty good. The whole album as a whole is not great. It's almost like a one-hit wonder, but I have no idea if Pelle Karlberg ever did any more records beyond this, but this is a great record. Love it. That's a great catchy song. So I just thought I'd start out with something unknown to most of you. There's always someone that's gonna know it. But let's go through this, and in not any particular order. And I'm gonna start out with some things that Hannah showed. Raspberries, I mean, come on. #1 record, Go All the Way, Overnight Sensation, Starting Over. Eric Carmen, who got really schmaltzy after with All By Myself as a solo artist. Capitol Records, This Is the Greatest Hits. I remember the only thing that, the sense memory thing, we talked about sense memory before, actors use a lot, where you use certain memories to recreate and you're working on a role or a character study. But the thing I remember most about the Raspberries, working in record stores during that time, and I did have a lot of their records during my 90s purge. I got rid of most of the separate records, but was that raspberry shaped album of theirs with the scratch and sniff scent that smelled like raspberries. That was a mess. That was messed up. you'd go to the R section of almost every record store and it would smell like raspberries for a long time. And if you brought the record home, your R section and your record collection would smell like raspberries. Raspberry, scratch, and sniff. She also showed Badfinger, of course, Badfinger. Won't get into the tragedy of Badfinger, but these two records especially. The first album, Magic Christian Music, you might throw in there, but these are probably the two more power pop of their records. Mal Evans, George Harrison, Todd Rundgren kind of produced both these in various forms. They were called the Ivies. They were the first band, one of the first bands, not the first artist, signed by Apple Records, the Beatles label, and they were called the Ivies. John Lennon changed their name. I think he coined the term Badfinger. So Magic Christian, there's actually a great CD that came out under the Ivies moniker. I mean, obviously it was on vinyl, but pretty rare in the UK. One of my favorite bands, I'm going to throw this in there. And again, a lot of these bands have mixtures. I mean, it could be a little prog and power pop and punk and power pop and power pop and power pop, but 10cc and especially these three albums. This is a comp of B-sides and outtakes, or really B-sides, single B-sides, which is really great. Wall Street, and has some hits. But these two especially, this is their more power pop time before they got a little more esoteric with How Dare You and original soundtrack. But Wall Street Shuffle, The Worst Band in the World, Silly Love, and of course on this, Donna, The Dean and I, and Rubber Bullets. Rubber Bullets, I think, is a great power pop song. Some of the stuff gets very retro in a kind of a doo-woppy thing. So you got to pick and choose in terms of putting these into the power pop category. But I'm voting for 10cc on that. Again, this is going back even a little further, 1970, and not power pop because there's not a lot of power on this record. But it's kind of that, power pop to me too, from my point of view, just because of my taste in growing up, anything that was kind of Beatlesque, we'd call it. And it had like the Beatle harmonies, multi-harmonies, really great catchy hooks. But Emmett Rhodes' solo album that was actually a demo that he did to get the label ABC Records signed him, ABC Dunhill. This to me is a perfect record. And the hit on here was Live Till You Die. But the whole record, to me, this is a perfect record. And anybody into any kind of pop music, I mean, you could stick it into the little bit singer-songwriter thing, but it's more very pop-ish. But it doesn't have the thrashing, louder guitars like, classic power pop. But I'm sticking in here because Maslow's likes to kind of cheat a little bit. Hannah cheated by putting 2 records in #1, and that's okay. That's what we're showcasing, our personal taste. So if our personal tastes, weave in and out into different areas, so be it. We're showing music. She also showed this, and I agree with this. Marshall Crenshaw. This is his first solo album on Warner Brothers. I have 3 of his other records on compact disc, but this is the real catchy one. And he covers "There She Goes Again," but "Someday, Someway" was the hook, catchy song in this record. Little trivia too. He became, I don't want to say became known, but what predates this album, he was on one of the touring versions in Los Angeles and San Francisco of the Broadway musical roadshow version of Beatlemania, where he played very Beatlesque songs. If you ever saw Beatlemania, that's where the tagline was, "Not the Beatles, but an incredible simulation." And so he worked with that. But great power pop artist, I'd say, right there. I commented on Hannah's thing this morning is if I had to pick #1, again, it's not a band, but it would be Nick Lowe. This is my original import, and she mentioned this. In the UK, this came out as Jesus Is Cool, but Americans in stores are so screwed up, no offense, they changed it to Pure Pop for Now People. And actually, Pure Pop for Now People is a really cool title, but I think they didn't want to offend the so-called religious Bible Belt by calling it Jesus Is Cool. Why not? If you like Jesus and he's cool, what's the problem? No disparaging him, but great record. You know, my favorite song that hooked me on them was So It Goes. So It Goes. Anyway, Little Hitler's hysterical too, you know. Again, I do, like Hannah said, he's got a great snarky sense of humor that I can totally relate to, and was a great producer. And then of course, the album that followed, Labor of Love. This is also my UK copy, but great song, Cruel to Be Kind. Probably one of the best power pop hits ever. Now, as we continue on, and we do a little interlude here, and I don't know why I had to put these bands together, but it's just because they're women. But the Bangles and the Go-Go's, they came out around the same time, overlapped. I was more of the Bangles fan. I hate to say it, it's kind of like the Beatles versus the Stones, the Bangles versus the Go-Go's, just because they're all girl groups and sort of come out of the punk scene. They weren't really punk bands, but very power pop bands. But obviously the Go-Go's came out right out of the gate with this album. And it was, I have two, see, different covers, different color covers. I don't know why I have these both, but it's the same record, just different takes on it. IRS record produced by Richard Gauthier and Rob Freeman. But We Got the Beat, Lust to Love, Can't Stop the World, Our Lips Are Sealed. That's probably the great power, one of the great all female power pop songs of all time. Our Lips Are Sealed. Just a great, great riff and a great hook. And then Vacation, their follow-up, which great. And they were all over MTV then. So power pop strikes with the Go-Go's. And the Bangles. I thought they were the more serious of the band. I don't know if that's true. Just, you know, we have a personal take. But their first album here, the song that really kind of grabbed me was Going Down to Liverpool. I just love that song. God. You know, for obvious reasons. But both great songs. And of course, this with Manic Monday, the song that Prince wrote and gave away to the Bangles. Very poppy, very power poppy. You know, she talks about the influence of power pop. I'm not going to get into that really too much. I saw one of her comments, and it's true. There was a lot of bands that were the fake bands, what do they call it? The teeny bopper things like the Archie, Sugar Sugar. You know, I'm blanking out on that one too. So, is it the Byrds, the Beatles, and the Bangles? I don't think that was the other B. Why can't I remember that? I'm going to take a break here and think about this for a second.
I have to say the things I feel. Oh, I have to feel the things I say. You must live till you die. You must fight to survive. You must live till you die. You must feel to be alive. You must live till you die.
Well, it's bubblegum music I was thinking of, but I still can't remember that first B band. The Knack, Get the Knack, of course, My Sharona, but Go-Go's Don't. Heartbeat, I mean, Heartbeat's a Buddy Holly cover, so they're right in there, and they kind of burnt brightly and then faded fast, you know. They got the hype of the Beatles, the skinny ties, the black suits, just everything tied to that on Capitol Records. And Capitol really wanted to kind of push them in that mode too. I'm not going to say anything about this band. Hannah did. Everyone else knows Cheap Trick, but these three albums are probably their, you know, great power pop records. You know, I think mine is Dream Police. That's my favorite of these. First one's great though. I mean, Jack Douglas produced this, who brought Cheap Trick and a couple of members of Cheap Trick to back John Lennon. What was going to be Double Fantasy, and all those the tracks they used with Cheap Trick weren't used on the final album. It came out in later kind of outtake versions. But Jack Douglas produced Double Fantasy, came and worked with John and Yoko on that. But Cheap Trick, can't talk about power pop without talking about Cheap Trick. And of course I'm going to forget certain bands, but a band that I showcased, not really showcased, but that Hannah did mention, and I think has two of the greatest power pop songs ever recorded. And I talked about this band on some video. I can't remember if it was a Whack-A-Mole or something else, but it's The Records. And I remember, I have the singles, these UK singles of this. It's Starry Eyes and Tina-Rama are the two great power pop songs on this album. Wonderful, wonderful record. I agree. She also showed, Hannah, she also showed this. You could pick a lot of records, and I actually like this record. I know she wasn't so hot on it. It's very poppy, and was it Mayor of Simpletons on here, I believe? Yep. King for a Day, Garden of Earthly Delights. I think this is their most power pop of all the albums. I do like the one with Grass that Todd Rundgren produced, is probably one of my favorites. Very poppy. I think that goes in a little different direction from my point of view and my taste, but it's still a great album. There's some really great pop things in it, but I think this has a little more of the power of that. And I agree, the first XTC albums, you could pick and choose cuts to put on there, like a lot of these groups, you know. Some of the punk groups, you could do that same thing. And this, you know, not a power pop band, but I'm gonna throw this Squeeze album in here, Cool for Cats, just because I think this is their best album. This is the only album I have on vinyl of theirs. Up the Junction and Cool for Cats. And there is a song called The Knack on here, by the way. This came out in 1979. So great record. Anybody into power pop and British pop should listen to this. And of course, if you don't know that, what Glenn Tilbrook and Chris Dilfer did some albums together, some duo albums, which are pretty good too. But you might know Jules Holland from his great BBC musical TV show, Jules Holland. And really great piano player, arranger. I saw him on the Concert for George, where he kind of helped with Eric Clapton arrange the musicians at the Royal Albert Hall for that. But great record. I don't have all their other records, and I don't know a lot beyond this record, but this is one of those records. I bought it in 1979 and just, you know, didn't wear it out, but I played it a lot. I think it's a great record. Okay, going into more of a 70s thing, some relating to the Bay Area. Nice to see these bands all the time around 76, 77 period. Dwight Twilley Band, this record is amazing. And it's Phil Seymour, who did solo stuff, and Dwight Twilley. Trying to Find My Baby, that's the song that hooked me on this. I saw them, I think at the Old Waldorf Club, Bill Graham's club in San Francisco, around the time this came out. And they were playing everywhere in the Bay Area. They got a lot of radio play on KSAN radio in the Bay Area. I have no idea how much airplay they got, but they're considered one of the great power pop albums too. But this album is really a wonderful record. And you know, two other local bands that, one is straight power pop, is the Rubinoos, and they reformed recently, so they're around again. This is their first record, and this was when some Berserkly Records. Berserkly Records was one of the first independent Bay Area record labels, founded by Matthew King Kaufman. And there's a record store called Berserkly Records on the north side of the UC Berkeley campus, and had a lot of, you know, British early metal and power pop. bands like The Move, and I could have included The Move here, and I know Hannah mentioned The Move. I did not think about that, but you buy a lot of those imports there at that store, and they started this label. They had the Rubinoos, Greg Kihn, Earthquake, Roadrunner. What's his name? I'll think of that in a second. But this is good. There's some cover stuff on here, but they do a great cover of I Think I'm Alone Now. Wonderful song. And Leave My Heart Alone, Rock and Roll is Dead. Anyway, it's very poppy, very, very wonderful. So, Jonathan Richmond and the Modern Lovers was also on the label for a while, but Berserkly Records, and they got signed to CBS distribution deals. So their early records are indie Berserkly, and then later records on Berserkly were distributed by Columbia, including this one. This was one of the first Columbia Epic records, CBS. This is a Berserkly edition. Greg Kihn. You know, years later, I kind of lost interest when he had that song, a big hit. I think he got signed to a bigger label, had the big what is it called? The breakup song or something? I hated that song. I just hated it. But I love this record. And this is also produced by Matthew King Kaufman and Gled Kolotkin, recorded in San Francisco. Really kind of a cool record on Berserkly. And then this record was one that came out when CBS picked up their deal. And I like this record. And there's a really fun version of a Bruce Springsteen song, For You. I Came For You, For You, I Came For You, from the very first Springsteen album. You know, not as upbeat, thrasher, power pop like some of these other records, but I just wanted to show these in here because it gives a little other offshoot take. And I know that Hannah knows a lot more than I do about all these offshoot things. The college rock genre. Fuck, when you're going to college and make a band, that's college rock to me. What the fuck is that? Sorry. And I know what it is and I can research it, but she knows, you know, she's into shoegaze a lot and all these other sub-genres of genres and stuff, and I just like throw it all together. I like what Vinyl Richie said. There's no punk, no post-punk, it's all punk. It's all punk. All punk. I love to do Vinyl Richie impressions. Okay, no punk. Anyway, these are kind of cool records. Greg Kihn. I love the stuff on Berserkly. After that, kind of gave up. Did a radio show in San Jose for many, many years. He's written several books related to pop music, but they're novels and they're really, really good. So, you know, all the power, you know, life after rock. But I used to see him a lot around the Bay Area because he's someone that used to play in the clubs all the time. And I'll be back with some compact discs in one moment after this little interlude. Did you like that? I decided to pull right here, since I'm right here at the CD room. I'm going to show CDs now. A few Move albums. I have all these on vinyl, different configurations. These are expanded editions of Shazam, my favorite Move album. Again, there's power pop influences in here, heavy metal influences, proggy, glammy, just amazing. This is a period before, this is with Bev Bevan and Roy Wood and Jeff Wayne, before they got even more power popized by Jeff Lynne. Move album. What I'm playing right now in the background you may hear is Message from the Country. Love this record. Etta James, song called Etta James, Message from the Country, No Time. I say, you know, one of the great songs, Hello Susie, is kind of a, I don't know, it's power pop. It'd be like sort of the glam things. You know, another good one that I don't have here, and I've seen a Cosmic Vinyl show at Brian at Cosmic Vinyl. It's a great record, The Stories. Remember Louie, 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 Louie? That's kind of in that overlapping genre of power pop, I think. The Stories, a purple covered, illustrated album cover. Now I'm just going to do a potpourri of CDs, no particular order. She mentioned she mentioned Jellyfish, very poppy, but also very theatrical in a way like 10cc is theatrical. So, you know, I'm throwing it in here because I agree with Hannah, although I don't think they're really power pop, but it's great harmonies and productions and amazing, just overlapping productions. In the same case, and sort of a 10 years later or 15 years later updated version of that would be Management. And these two albums especially by Management. Again, two guys, very pop harmonies with extended, just amazing stuff. So these almost could be the same band. Don't tell them that I said that because they would disagree. But Jellyfish and Management, really cool stuff. Very production heavy, but in a 10cc, some ELO way. I'm not putting ELO in here because I'm just not. Anyway. Now, some people may argue that these guys are power pop or this guy or this band, but Sugar. Sugar is a band that Bob Mould did after Husker Du, but it's got more of a melodic hook-based songs. I don't have the first album here, but I think these are pretty good B-sides, and this is more of an easy listening kind of overlapping thing. But Sugar, I would say, in there. And, you know, whoa, excuse me, Maslov. Gesundheit. Anyway, Sugar. You know, you could put Cracker in there too, which is an offshoot of Kemper van Beethoven. But it's like all bands, they have a song that's that overlaps into that genre as well. Another one that Hannah mentioned, another artist, you can't do modern power pop without talking about Matthew Sweet, especially Girlfriend. Which one's Girlfriend? Do I have Girlfriend here? I don't have it here. Well, Alter Beast, In Reverse, and 100% Fun. And then he did those two cover, I think 2 volumes or 3 volumes of cover albums with Susanna Hoff of the Bangles. Those are pretty cool too. I don't have those up. And Flamin' Groovies, not the original Flamin' Groovies with Roy Loney. There was just, I wish I was in San Francisco last week because there was a great, Roy Loney was one of the original members of Flamin' Groovies, who was a San Francisco band that never really broke big at the time because they were around San Francisco and everyone's doing psychedelic shit. They were doing short rock and roll retro Elvis-y, Gene Vincent kind of, almost like a pre-punk thing. Roy Loney, I worked with at ABC Records for about 1.5 years. He passed away, and there was this great overview concert tribute, just a party tribute in San Francisco last week, and I would have loved to have seen that. But the later Flamin' Groovies, when they signed to Sire Records, and Roy was not in the band, and they did these 3 records, Shake Some Action, Jumpin' in the Night, and Flamin' Groovies Now, and this is a little box set of those 3 albums. And these are really great records. Do some cover stuff. Hannah, I know, I think she showed this one, Shake Some Action. The song Shake Some Action is great, but of course they do some You Tore Me Down. Oh, that's an amazing song. I'd say that should be on any power pop greatest hits album. Of course they do Misery, the Beatles song, and yes, oh, anyway. This one, and Feel a Whole Lot Better, Cover the Birds. So, you know, I'm driving myself crazy not thinking of that third. It's age, Hannah. You're younger, so much younger, and I know the Birds, the Beatles, and the Bob Brummels. No, ain't the Beau Brummels. The Byrds. The Beatles. Oh, come on. Oh, the Beach Boys, of course. I'm looking right up here at the Beach Boy record. I'm not showing any Beach Boy records. See, I knew before I'd end this, I'd figure it out without cheating. But it just occurred to me. You know, the Bee Gees, one could argue too, but that's a whole other thing. That's very Beatle. That would be a better on a Beatlesque video over a power pop video, because they didn't really do power pop stuff. And of course, I'm going to end like Hannah ended, and not that it's my favorite, the power pop. I'm not going to pull those first two records, but I'll just show, since she showed the albums, I'll show the Rhino box set, that 4 discs, including a live Lafayette Music Room, Memphis, Tennessee concert. You all know, you know, the most infamous cult band maybe ever, or one of the most infamous, that never sold records during their day, but became this huge, big cult that every American alt punk, alt new wave, indie band, Americana band now cites as Big Star. It's one of those things like the Velvet Underground. Probably Big Star is on a par with the Velvet Underground, of a band that if everyone who talks about saying they bought their records when they came out bought them, they would have sold more than the 6,000 albums that the first Velvet Underground record sold back in their heyday, or back in the day. Same with this. I didn't have any Big Star then. I had some friends I worked with in record stores would play their records in the store, and I don't know, I never jumped in at the time. But like most of you out there, we're on the bandwagon now with Big Star. But this is a highly recommended overview collection. I think, you know, produced by Jim Dickinson. Jim Dickinson is again part of my Ry Cooder connection. Worked with Ry Cooder on some records, and I think his first record, or Boomer Story, a bunch of records. Anyway, this has alternate versions as well as hero versions of the record. So thank you, Hannah, the Omaha Introvert, for inspiring me this morning and making me try to rip apart my records. And they're all over the room right now on the floor. But thanks for doing this, because I love this music and it got me inspired. And instead of writing the list of all the things, I thought I'd just, you know, when I jump in, I'm jumping in all the way. So hope you like it. I'm going to put a link down. I'm sure everybody here who's watching this is a subscriber to the Omaha Introvert. If you're not, you should be. She just has a passion for music and loves certain music. And when she dives into an artist, she seems to go all the way with an artist, and that's kind of cool. Anyway, and it's also, we want to, you know, not a lot of women on the VC. I look at my viewer relationship, it's like 97% are male audience, and we just need a nice overview of various people from obviously various countries, various genders, and everything, showing cases music. I'm not groveling and doing that, but I just think it's a natural progression, because everyone loves music, and it's like nice to have these different takes on music. So thanks, Hannah. It was great meeting you last year, and Mazzy loves you all. Take care.